Before we do this, again, we did this for Orlando, but it's for the victims, for the families, and for all of you. Everyone has their issues, from struggling to cancer, to depression, to whatever ailments, mental or physical that we deal with, or emotional. So, my prayer for this song is that it's just filled with a spirit that just helps to heal and to encourage and to inspire. And that we do that for others. So hopefully, as we lift our voices or our hearts right now, we can do that for other people, for each other in this room, and for those in Orlando. You're broken down and tired of living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you.
Swept along through it. Yeah, so that was, and then you just go through an absolute roller coaster of emotions for the next 5 or 10 years.
Wow.
I remember sitting in the doctor's consultation room, and I was in another room, and I could hear him doing a recording for his secretary, I think, and he mentioned my name and mentioned cancer. And I was like, no, that's not possible. Because while I was waiting for the result, I looked at everyone in the room and I said to myself, people are going to leave here with a positive result. I feel sorry for them. And I actually said the prayer for them. So I didn't think my result was going to be positive. Hearing that, so when the doctor came in with a nurse and said, we can confirm it's cancer, but we've caught it early, we're positive, you're going to survive, I didn't believe them. I was like, it's only a matter of time. I'm really going to die. So yes, for me too, initially I thought it was a death sentence.
For me, I think I have a different perspective from every other person. When my result was announced to me, the only person I could think about was my son, because that's the only precious thing I have. However, I never thought about death at all. I never thought about dying, because I said to myself, I've got my parents still alive. I've got my grandmother still alive. My son is not married yet. I've not got my grandchildren, so I'm not going nowhere.
Wow. So talking about, so you've moved us very quickly into talking about family. How was that, telling your family? And I guess thinking about your immediate family, what was that like?
For me, I didn't tell my family. The only people that knew about my journey, about me having cancer, were my mom's younger brother, who I'm quite very close to, and my younger sister. I kept it away from every other person. I didn't tell anyone.
Okay. What was your decision? What was your reason for that?
The reason was I didn't want any kind of negative energy around me. I didn't want people to start feeling pity party, coming to start asking you. For me, coming from an African background, and people thinking, oh, you've got the worst kind of disease, you've done this, and I didn't want all those kind of stigmatization. So I said to myself, you know what, keep it to yourself, tell people when you've finished your treatment, and by doing so, I had to do a Thanksgiving. So I never told no one. Unfortunately, at that time, I was living, myself and my husband were living apart. So he didn't know about it. He never knew about it until I'd done all my treatment. I was actually second to my last chemotherapy when I mentioned it, when I now invited him and I told him what was going on.
How was it for everyone else? Was there a need, a feeling of not telling family, or?
So my mum and my husband were with me when I was officially told the news, because what happened was I'd gone in and anyone that's had a lump, they go in, you have a ultrasound and then you have a scan. I didn't for a minute think I had cancer at all, to the point where I saw everyone leaving. I couldn't understand why I'm still going for another mammogram. So I said to the radiographer, whatever they're called, I said, why am I still here? Everyone's left, it's 5:30, I've got to go home. And she said, oh, it's because you've got calcium in your breast and it means you've got breast cancer. So, and she said it so as if it was a normal conversation that I didn't know how to respond. So I suddenly thought, what is she talking about? This makes no sense. And I was trying to get dressed, acting normal because she's acting normal. But I still refused to accept it at that moment because I thought she's made them, because the way she's talking, maybe she thinks I might have it. So I'm trying to act normal. My mum and my husband are upstairs and I'm thinking, I'm not going to show emotion because I'm overreacting. Let me just wait. So they were with me when I was told. And from the time I knew, I was very open and honest with everyone. My youngest child, I think, was 3. And after about a week, once they confirmed that it hadn't spread to any other organs, they were just going to take out my lymph nodes. I told all 3 of my children. I was very honest. It actually helped me to be very open and honest with people that I've got this, but God is with me. I'm going to survive it. Let's come on this journey with me, but yeah, initially my family were there, and they knew about it, but I just was honest in telling everyone.
I want to pedal back a little bit, Karibi, because I think the circumstances around you finding out was I wouldn't know what to do. So I want you to share that.
Okay. So I mean, I would categorize myself as a pretty healthy person, pretty active, sports, yoga, 10, 15 miles kind of run. But I started having some lower back pain, and like yoga wasn't taking it away. And I was like, okay, this is odd. So without, drawing it all out, it kind of dragged on. The pain was there, but actually didn't concern me too much because I can kind of go through a lot of pain. I have a pretty high pain threshold. But then my blood pressure started spiking. So I went in to have that checked and stress test on my heart and everything. And they were like, you know what, they don't see anything really. And they did a bunch of ultrasounds and they said, we'll get you on some blood medication to help maybe your stressed out work. And I was like, yeah, that's probably it. I work too much. But then the pain got worse. And then I started having like varicose veins in my groin. So I was like, all right, this is a problem. And then COVID hit, because this is in March. And we're all going into lockdown. It's really hard. Like you're not comfortable even going to a medical center or hospital. But something in my heart was like, let's try to get it done. I'm in Lagos, Nigeria. Unfortunately, our healthcare system isn't anything close to world class. I couldn't get out. At that time, I wasn't even thinking about getting out, but I ended up through a friend who runs a hospital, finding a really good radiologist who finally, to my surprise, instead of doing a MRI on my lower back to tell me why my back was hurting, it said, you know what, let's do a CT scan instead. I'm like, really? It's like, yeah, that's what I think you need. He had seen the ultrasound and he already had a hunch. Obviously, at this point, he wasn't telling me anything. We've since become really good friends. So he does the CT, says, hey, I think you have renal cancer. And I'm like, he's like, we do have to do a biopsy to make sure. And that was a weird, like I said, 30 seconds to a minute. And then when I kicked out of that, I went into the whole, okay, let's rational, let's think this thing, what are the options? You know, he's drawing things out. And I had a business call that my sister was leading. And I just told her what they had told me initially, that I think I have kidney stones. So she didn't know anything about it. And I wasn't going to tell her. So I did the whole call without telling her. And then I told my wife, who was just an amazing rock star, because and I was scared about that. That's really when I was, I think I could have broken. I could have been broken at that point. And we were having lunch. I waited for her to eat, finish eating. Then I tell her, and she literally just looks at me and she's like, okay, so what's next? And I just had this energy, like, okay, she's right. I mean, if she's good, I was good, but if she's good, and then I have a big family. I have 6 other siblings, in-laws, parents that are a bit elderly. So we were very systematic in how we told everybody and who to tell first. And it was interesting. I can smile about it now, but each family member dealt with it differently. There were those who were like uber emotional, broke down immediately. There were, and I was like, I became the person that was comforting everybody. Like, hey, I'm good. Any which way this shakes out, I'm good. Well, and this is just, again, for me, it went in my faith place. Like, whether it works out or whether not, I'm okay. I've lived a life of love. You guys know I love you guys. You guys know we're good. And so, yeah, I think I hope I'm answering your question, because I know I've gone all over the place. But and then one of the things I did, because we were in lockdown, is as we kind of got better information, the biopsy came in. At the point when the biopsy came in and it was official, I then scheduled a Zoom session where because my family's all over the world, and everybody got on Zoom, and I talked through the process of where I was. And I think that really, really helped everybody, because one, they could see me, and they could see, not just hear my voice, but they could see I wasn't really freaking out. And then I think everybody could draw strength from each other. And because I think the journey of healing is deeply connected to the energy that is around you as you go through the process.
Thanks for sharing that. And I know that when you had surgery, the decision, because I think one of the things that got me about your story was, first of all, I'm thinking being in Nigeria, then you find that out, then you can't get out even if you want to. And there'll be a feeling of, listen, no one's touching me. Let me just hold tight till I'm able to. Do you understand what I mean? Like, how do you even make those kind of decisions to have surgery? Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I did everything I could not to have surgery in Nigeria. The week before my surgery, a friend of ours, business friend, and actually we kind of knew each other growing up, but I wasn't that close until we started doing some business together. Went in oddly for some weird reason. He went in for liposuction. He wasn't happy with the amount of weight around his gut, and he died. And we're not sure what the real story is, but supposedly the power went out at the hospital, and the backup generator wouldn't come on, and he died on the operating table. So I kind of had that in the back, my backdrop, as I'm thinking, okay, I've got COVID. I don't want to be in hospital at this time because, testing wasn't even being ramped up. I'm trying to get out. I had just missed the last U.S. evacuation flight when I found out. I think the evacuation flight was on the 9th, and I found out like a day after Easter in April. So the plan was supposed to be try to take some KTI, they call them TKI, inhibitors to try to shrink the tumor. But then a cancer board came back looking over my case and was like, listen, the size, the cancer had grown to the size of a grapefruit, which kind of took over my whole left kidney, even though the kidney was still about 30% operational, but the cancer had engulfed it. So they're like, listen, we really, really recommend surgery. And I was like, okay. So the doctor, the radiologist who had done my scan, I felt very comfortable with. I loved his background and the way he approached telling me. We picked a urologist, and then I picked the hospital. I made sure I had an ICU. I went through the whole thing. It was a friend's hospital, so there was an additional like, hey, you gotta make sure I'm coming out of this hospital, right? So it was pretty intense, but I didn't think too far. Each decision was kind of like what's in front of you, and the 6 days in the hospital ICU where I wouldn't wish it on anybody. I really wouldn't. Those were some rough days. I don't know how anybody else, how it was for everybody else through their process, but man, surgery and recovery, ICU is not where you go to rest or feel better, and it's like literally it's just recovery. I don't think I slept more than an hour at a time in that place. It was like being in a disco, lights, sounds, tubes, uncomfortable bed, you're not eating. I dropped 15, 20 pounds.
Wow.
But coming out of it, I think the one thing I would say, not to take too much more time, is you come out of it understanding fully what it's like to be born again. I literally had to learn to breathe again because the surgery went from 3-4 hours to 8 hours. So I was under anesthesia way too long. So they had to put me in a breathing tube for a minute. Learn to sit up, learn to walk, shower, learn to pee again, eat again. So those are things I didn't quite appreciate the way I appreciate today.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. So if I come to Martin and Tommy for a second. So in terms of how did it affect work in terms of, did you feel like, okay, let me tell work straight away? Did you feel like, sometimes there's this sense of, I don't want them to think this will affect me so much I can't I can't function, or I become a burden or something. Was there a sense of that? What was work like?
It's interesting. I was worried about that was one of my biggest worries, was that it would sideline my career. And I was lucky I had quite a supportive manager, and I told her straight away, told my team. So that was all pretty good. I think the difficult thing, my wife Nicole works where I work, and there's about 6,000 people in the building. Asia, as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
And strange enough, the biggest problem was probably for Nicole, because once chemo started, I would only work when I felt like it, or go into work. But she would see someone every day who, how's Martin? How's he going? Oh, I heard he had cancer. And it was just the same thing over and over. And that went for 4 or 5 months. And we sort of thought fairly early on, we didn't want as much as you could manage it, we wanted to stay positive. So she set up a Facebook page called I'm Not Dead Yet. And a lot of our friends were in Australia and the US as well. So that just meant we could direct people there, and we didn't have to manage their reaction, because I'm sure some of the people on the call today, you know, that feeling where you might be 6 months in or 2 years in, and or 2 weeks in, and you're having to help other people through their journey to understand that you got cancer.
Yeah.
So this Facebook page was, and we didn't know what was going to happen, but it was fantastic, and things got weirdly competitive. Someone said to me one day that a certain substance, it doesn't matter what it is, you should start taking this substance, it'll cure cancer. And I got a bit angry, and I put onto the Facebook page, someone told me today, cheese will cure cancer. So about 2 weeks later, packages of cheese start arriving from around the world. You know? And then, so 2 weeks after that, I said, oh, actually, I was wrong. I was told chocolate cures cancer. Packages. So, and that was how we sort of dealt with the work side, because it is, you know, it's hard. I think it was harder for my wife in a lot of ways, and my daughter for Mills. So that was one of our coping strategies, which I think helped. There was one small group of people at work who I didn't like, who sort of, I don't know if it happens in the UK, but often when a woman gets pregnant, people feel it's okay now to come up and rub their stomach. So I found there was people at work who I didn't even like, who suddenly found it was okay to come up and give me a hand to express sympathy. And I know it's a bit mean-hearted, but I didn't like that. It was sort of like, you know, doing this to show to other people you care, if that makes sense. But yeah, so it was, you know, that's what it was like at work. I was lucky I had a boss who really got it. She was great.
I remember, I think I definitely was one of the ones. It was easy for me to go to Nicole, to be like, then, because I would avoid you. It was easy for me to just go to Nicole, how's he doing? You know, sort of thing. And yeah, I thought it was easier than to approach you or to say anything. So I definitely see that. So Tomi, what was it like for you?
So I run a lingerie business in Lagos, and I live in England. So, and then I didn't have staff because I was doing it from home in Lagos. I just sent a whole shop full of stock to Lagos before I got the diagnosis. So I had to put all my money in stocking up. I can't go because I couldn't travel because of the treatments. I was told with chemotherapy, you have to be careful with infection. So because of that, I decided I wasn't going to travel. I wasn't going to go on a plane because I know a few people who had died from traveling, getting infection. So they didn't die of the cancer, they died of infection. So I was like, I'm not going anywhere. So I had my stock in Lagos with no one to sell it. And then I'm here with no money. So I had to, because I'm also an IT consultant, so I had to do TV and start looking for work as well. So in my treatment, I was still going for interviews. When strong enough, I'll go for interviews. But I was really lucky and blessed with good friends and family. Rally around me. I had my sister-in-law in Lagos selling the stock. She still has her customers today from then. It's 8 years ago. So she started selling for me. So I didn't have to deal. I sent a message with what had happened to most of my customers, and they were really quite sympathetic. I remember a group of customers in Abuja actually sent someone to London to come and visit me. So there's a group of teachers who I sell to in Regent School in Abuja, and they sent one of their teachers who was on her way to Manchester to stop over and make sure she sees me before coming back. So things like that were really helpful and gave me strength to continue.
Thanks for sharing that. So so in terms of outside support, so obviously, Solo, you mentioned that you really didn't tell family, only your mom's brother and so on. Did you reach out to outside external people for support?
I had I had my boss who was during our work, she was aware of it because she went through the process with me as well. And she was quite very supportive because I work within the NHS Trust. So she was quite very supportive. I had my pastor, who was the first person I actually told when I got the result. And I had very few friends that knew about it, and I had a very good support system. That I just wanted to keep it not that I didn't want to tell family, but I didn't want, like I said earlier on, I didn't want people having when the family you come from, because I didn't want I've got someone like my father. If I told him, maybe he will not be alive today, because we're quite close. So I just wanted to keep it very close to myself. And I'd done my chemo. My mom was in my sister's house in Manchester, and I visited her quite a few times. She didn't know I was going through chemo. And not until when I was going to do my Thanksgiving, we now said, this is the time to tell them. And my sister had to sit her down. I had to sit my dad down. I was in London, my sister was in Manchester. So we had to tell them. And my mother nearly passed out when she heard it. So she said, thank God you guys didn't tell me when I was still in Nigeria. Because, that kind of thing. But I had a very good support system. Church was very supportive. I had few people in church that were aware of it and were, standing in the gap in prayers for me as well.
So thanks for sharing that. In terms of, so you all went through your treatment, and this is going to sound like an odd question, but when you're going through your treatment, is it easier when people can see that, or going through this journey, is it easier when people can see what you're going through, than not being able to see it? Because I know for Lindy, I know for you didn't look like you had cancer. I remember visiting Lindy after she had surgery, and she looked better than she did before cancer. I didn't understand that. Literally just had the surgery. And I was like, so I remember thinking, you look really good. Look at your skin. You look, I was like, I just didn't understand. She just had surgery. And then I was like, so what are you taking? And I remember actually all the, the vitamins, all the greens. And I was like, oh, I'm taking that. I remember like, okay, I'm like, I was screenshotting, like going to Boots, and actually bought it. Didn't take it because it was green. But I remember thinking to myself, I really, so Lindy, what was that like? Do you think it was easier for you or was it harder?
My personal experience or my personal feeling was that it was harder because I was in a lot of pain. I was very tired. I was going through a lot. And yeah, I looked good. I looked good because I think I'd just given it to God. I was really in a peaceful place. I was, I was very positive. I was just so focused on positive emotions and being in a positive place and eating good food and resting and doing everything. So yeah, I think that's what contributed to me looking good. But I was physically in a lot of, I'd had 2 lots of surgery, and people saying, oh, but you look fine. Oh, why don't you do such and such. Why don't you? Yeah. So I found that hard, and I didn't lose my hair. There was things that I went through that other people. So they just, it was as if, did you really have cancer? It was that kind of, I felt like I had to justify feeling ill. But then someone else who physically it showed in them might say the opposite. They might say, well, I wish it didn't show in me. But I just felt people expected more than what I could give physically, because I looked okay. And I physically couldn't do stuff. I couldn't, but people weren't understanding of that because I looked healthy.
Yeah, I know I drew comfort from seeing the fact that you didn't look sick. I was like, it made me feel I felt okay that, okay, yeah. She doesn't, she doesn't, yeah, she's all right there. How was that for you, Tommy?
For me, I lost my hair. I lost my nails, my fingernails, my toenails, and I was very weak. But I had support of my friends and family, and that meant a whole lot to me. It kept me going. I tried to exercise to get strength then. And I had a toddler who I was looking after alone. I had my daughter who had just come back from Nigeria to start. She had come back from boarding school and starting a new school, which was like 45 minutes drive away from home, and I had to take her to school. So I had to plan my life around the chemotherapy. So when I get the chemo, I have 2 days before I go down. So the 2 days I do all the things, all the preparation I needed to do quickly. Then go lay low for like 3 days when I can't do anything but try and eat and exercise. So when I'm really, really weak and I feel like I can't go on, I get up, go for a short walk. And surprisingly, I would come back feeling a bit stronger. I still did all the cooking for the kids, picked my daughter, went to school meetings. That kept me going because I had a purpose. I had something to work towards. So yes, it was tough. And I think I actually looked weaker than I was, though I was really weak. But I think because I'd lost my hair, I had my skin tone had changed. So I actually looked completely different to my normal self. So people would see me and would be scared, like, oh my God, what is this? What's going on? So I could still get on with my life, basically. I could still look for work. I did a few interviews, and after a few times, I got scared about traveling on the underground. So I packed that up. And then, it was tough, but I kept going. And I was very, very lucky to have good friends who would cook food, bring me meals, daughter to school. I would have friends come to stay over just to keep me company. Looking back, I don't feel sad or sorry about that time, because it was a good time because of the love I had around me with my friends and family. I can't ask to experience it again, but the things I learned during that time, I can't exchange it for anything else.
Okay. So I want to switch a little bit, and I want to talk about body parts. Okay. So, I always say when somebody loses an arm or if somebody loses a leg, they're considered disabled. when you lose a part of your body that's not visible, what's that like? And just, was there a sense of feeling like, oh, am I disabled now? Because, you know, does anybody want to share anything around that?
I didn't feel like that because from the beginning I was told that reconstruction. So I was looking forward to that.
Okay, so you didn't feel like that because you knew you were going to have reconstruction?
Yes, because I knew I was going to have reconstruction, and they had offered me, I mean, for being a lady, having a new pair of breasts. So I thought, oh, good. You look better now. So I had that to look forward to. And also because I was told they were going to use my tummy fat and skin. So I was like, oh my God.
So you felt like you were still using parts of your body anyway?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
I think I felt the same way Tommy felt, because once I was told about the breast cancer, my first reaction was cut the breast. I wasn't worried about what am I losing, as long as it's just a pair of breasts. But once you have life can go on without the breast. So I opted for them to cut it. Like Tommy felt when the doctor now started saying to me, I opted for that and reconstruction. I did the same day. And, you know, when I had a very fantastic plastic surgeon, she talked me through, we're going to lift the other breast. And I said, oh, come on, I'm going to start looking sexy, man. Even with or without, you know. So I had my shape would come out by the time they take the fat from my tummy. You know,
exactly.
Oh, what a good place to take it from.
Oh, come on now, you need to see it, man.
Hey, Martin, I think you and I got the short end of the stick. I mean, I was hoping for a bigger chest.
Oh my goodness.
You know, like, and so get some arm muscle surgery. Anyway.
What was there?
Martin, you're on mute, by the way.
Yeah, Martin, you're on mute. Yeah. Was there a thing about feeling like, so when the initial, you know, when you had the surgery, and did they do this reconstruction together, same yes, time? Yeah. Oh, okay. So there wasn't a sense of, oh my God.
The only difference, once the surgery is done, you don't have a nipple, so it's flat.
Yeah, but seeing that, didn't that?
So seeing that, when I look, because what I did was I took before and after picture. Mm-hmm. So when they took the bandage off, and I saw there was no nipple, and I was like, oh, no nipple. So I questioned my surgeon. I said, you told me you were going to give me a new pair of breasts. Where's the nipple? And she goes, oh no, we can do that. Some people actually go back to opt for, and I opted for it, and I went back for the nipple. And back for them.
Oh, so you get a choice of whether you want a nipple or not.
Yes, you get a choice whether you want it. Wow. And I opted for that. So I went back for my nipple, and they reconstructed something. Yeah. And put it there.
Same.
So when people see me, you don't even know. So sometimes most people I've seen people that have done mastectomy, bilateral mastectomy, and they are flat in the chest. I have a friend, she doesn't really care. She does not wear anything at all. She just goes that way, you know. So it's just the confidence, you know.
Lucky her.
Confidence is the way to carry yourself.
Yeah.
So Martin and Karibi, what was your experience with that? With the whole, did you feel like there's something? What was your?
I suppose that for me there was an upside and a downside. So I had lymphoma was stage 4, and I had a fractured pelvis and a rib just sitting on the couch when I sneezed. So there was, and Tommy, I mean, I could take your script. Mine was exactly the same. The hair, you know, problems with fingers, fear of the underground, all exactly the same. But I suppose for me, I think you rationalise it a little bit. Maybe you grow up a little bit. And the doctors said to me, look, this is the survival rate, so you think you're going to get through. And I said, do you know what will happen with my pelvis, with my hip? And he said, look, it will probably heal. You're not going to go and play football again. And how long will that take? Probably about 2 years all up. And most of that has proved to be pretty true. So I think back when I found that out, I was very much, I'd hear that information, I'd put it in a mental box somewhere. Let's just focus on getting through the chemo.
Yeah. And
that for me was sort of the coping strategy of just deal with the stuff that you need to deal with. And that seemed to help, you know. And having my wife and daughter were superstars. I do think it was harder for them, and they probably took on a lot of the worry. But that was what it was like for me. And look, my hair's come back. I'm quite happy with the amount of hair I've got. I don't think the cancer's the problem. I think it's hereditary, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, there you go.
Well, I guess being the newbie in the group, I first have to say it's really nice to hear all of you guys. I think one of the toughest things so far for me in Nigeria is not really having a lot of survivors to lean on. So I'm actually contemplating starting a survivors group, just because I think hearing all of you guys say so many things that I can relate to has really been so far has been really helpful. So thank you guys, everybody. For me, I'm still on my healing journey. I've opted for now not to do any chemo or immunotherapy, and just kind of get myself to a place where we can kind of, I guess, have a baseline. So I do consciously refer to myself as one kidney Caribbean, because now I have one kidney, and I'm learning to have patience, because I'm not used to. I really never really been sick. I had never been in a hospital before. I never spent overnight in a hospital for any reason. I think in high school I got playing football, fractured an ankle, and they just put me in a cast and I was out. So I think it's been pretty hard some days, just dealing with the pain and dealing with the healing process, and understanding that you can't have healing without pain. So I can look down, the scar is pretty prominent, but I go running now, so it can get hot, so I just run without my shirt, and I can see people like, wow, okay, and folks who don't know what I've gone through, like, oh man, did somebody stab you, or did you get into a knife fight? And but I think it's important, at least for me, is that I'm realizing that the scar is a gift to explain that there's life after this thing called cancer. Yeah. There's really and there's a rich life, not just like hanging on. Like, you literally, at least I am getting to really, really enjoy living, and like understanding that living is a process, and it's a fun process when you can put your mind and your body and your soul into it. But thankfully enough, I can do most anything I want with one kidney. Like Martin, I can't go out and start riding motorcycles or playing rugby, and I just have to be patient. It could take another year before I'm fully healed, because of how much muscle they had to cut through. But I every day I make a bit more progress. I get out and run a little bit longer. do a little bit more yoga, stretch a bit more. Yesterday, I even lifted some weights, which was nice. So I feel like I'm okay.
Okay, thanks for that. So we're gonna take questions soon. So Facebook, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. And guys, get your questions ready. So we'll go through them. Before I move to questions, wanted to ask a couple of things. So in terms of things that I always find that when you hear of bad news, such as somebody having cancer, it's always hard to know what to say. And most of the time, you probably end up saying the wrong thing anyway, you know, or you think you're playing safe by not saying anything. So were there anything that people said to you that you wish they didn't say, or you feel like maybe they didn't say to you, but you've heard them say to someone that you feel like you don't really say that to someone who has cancer? Was there anything like that?
Yeah, I've had someone say to me, you see yourself as a warrior, or you see yourself, so you call yourself a survivor, you call yourself a warrior. And I said, hey, hold it there. Yes, I am. You've not gone through what I've gone through. If you've gone through what I've gone through, you won't sit there and be saying what you're saying. So yes, I see myself as a warrior. I see myself as a fighter. I see myself as a survivor. So you don't come up to patronize people with words, you know. So most of the time when I go out and I see people who are going through difficult time, to be honest, I don't say anything to them. All I do is I give them a hug in order not to say the wrong thing.
Lindy, was there anything?
Thinking back, in all honesty, I preferred people saying something and it being the wrong thing but from the heart than people avoiding me, because I'm very communicative and I talked openly about it. When I could see people actively avoiding me, I found that harder to cope with than someone saying the wrong thing. Because, you know, it's new to everyone. When you go through cancer, your whole environment is going through it as well. And people deal with their emotions differently. You know, everyone, and I didn't feel, you know, anger or anything for anyone that said anything to me. I would just prefer they told me their emotions and then we could talk through it. You know, so when people said, oh, you look fine. Oh, you haven't lost any weight. Oh, are you sure you've got cancer? You look really good. I did feel like, what are you talking about? But I prefer they say that and then I can tell them about my journey and, you know, what I went through and what I was going through, and it isn't an immediate death sentence. And, you know, so I just preferred people to just talk. So I could get rid of, because it actually helped a lot of people seeing me healthy. That stigma and fear about cancer helped a lot of people, because when you just associate it with death, it was useful. It was useful to talk that through.
Tommy, you want to add anything?
Yeah, I remember telling someone, and she said to me, where did you get it from? So
everyone
mean by that, she said,
I feel you. Someone said that to me. I feel you.
So someone said, where did you get it from? Meaning that
how, when, as in it's a disease for a specific type of people. Probably you're a sinner or you've done something wrong. So, well, I just said to her, I'm glad I'm going to be okay. And I couldn't say more than that because I was really hurt. And well, I did understand that it's possible she didn't know what to say. She could have been scared herself, you know. So I let it go. And someone else who saw me said, oh my God, you look so different. I knew what they meant. And I wish they hadn't said that, you know. But again, I thought, you know, it's possible she didn't know what to say. Shocked to see me, and it could have been maturity, different things. And through my journey, I think I matured quickly. I learned love, more kindness, because I got a lot of love and kindness from people around me. So I learned to give that back, and I learned to be more understanding. So I didn't say much.
I think I have to second what Tommy just said. Even though it doesn't bother me, to be honest, because I just, you know, I'm pretty grounded in where I'm heading. I think I would say there's probably about 30% of the people, even people close to you, I felt like their first instinct was to try to figure out if I did something wrong.
Wow.
How did you get it? You know, and in some ways, maybe trying to figure out, was there something you were doing so that they don't do it? I don't know, but I got about, I would say if I, you know, scan, especially, you know, when I initially mentioned it, there was a certain percentage of people that's like, so how did you get this? Or like, how did you find out? Like there's a bit of a digging in that direction. It was even funny, a friend of mine, I go to a grocery store close to my house a lot and had a pharmacy. And so, you know, just getting normal things out of pharmacy. So through the process from February or so till now, obviously I lost a lot of weight. And one of the young ladies there, I'm talking to her maybe about a couple of weeks ago, and I'm also an actor, and so they were, you know, she was talking about a couple of things that I've done, and then she mentions to me like, yeah, this other girl mentioned that you were an actor. I didn't know you did that. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, really? She's like, yeah. We were all talking about how when you come around to the pharmacy, the pharmacist runs to the back. And I'm like, what do you mean, like runs to the back? Why? She's like, you've lost so much weight, everybody thinks you have COVID. And I'm like, and it didn't even dawn on me, like people were kind of avoiding me a little bit because I had lost so much visible weight. So I had to explain to her why I had lost the weight, and then she's like, oh, okay. And then I think the one that weirdly enough, and shouldn't, but weirdly gets to me is when people say, I'm sorry to hear that, or I'm sorry, like, and I'm like, no, don't be sorry. Like, what are you sorry about? It's like, and I think that's, you know, it's, you know, unfortunate or fortunate, cancer is literally a part of our existence. From the day we are born, we are interacting with cancer cells, and we're interacting with the possibility of living a life that in some way gets overloaded, where the cancer cells are not being able to be managed or killed or put away out of your body. So and the healing process and the living process is learning how to minimize all the toxic overload that we can go through in life.
Wow. Okay, so Tommy, you shared something with me about, so again, if there's anything that sticks out in your mind, any of you, just say, about positive things that people said to you that you held on to. I mean, you're 8 years free and you still remember it. Do you want to share that?
Yes, so the first person who said something to me that I wouldn't forget is the nurse in the hospital I was at. She's Nigerian. So she said to me, she said, make sure you follow the doctor's instructions and you stick to them. And in my mind, I thought, why wouldn't I do that? Why? I'm not a doctor. I've put myself in their hands. So certainly I would follow the instructions. But going through the journey, I get a lot of advice from friends and family that are contrary to the doctor's advice. I then understood why she said that. Because so I'll get people tell me, you can take some herbs. You don't really need chemo. And being a Christian, I think this is where your faith comes in. To do chemo, just, you've had the surgery, just believe God. And I also remember one of my very good friends whose mom had gone through cancer a couple of times and she's fine till today. So she said to me, make sure you finish your chemotherapy. And I'm thinking, why would Buki say that? Why wouldn't I finish it? I have to. But when I went through chemo, it was the toughest thing in this world. And yes, I do understand why some people will give up on it. So those two advices, I still remember them till today. I'm grateful for them.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. Yes, I've got so many questions. We still haven't taken questions from people. Does anybody have any questions? Anyone raising their hand?
There's a couple of questions that have been submitted so far.
Yeah, I'm going to come to those one, but I didn't know if there was anyone in the room who had questions.
Feel free to raise your hand.
Okay, so one of the questions that someone wrote was, how much support did you get from work? I think we kind of covered that, but I think specifically in terms of taking time off work, how flexible or how much time were you allowed? Good. I'm just going to grab my charger, but just move off the screen. But yeah.
For me, from day one, my boss did say to me, "You've got my 100% backing." Anytime, and we sat down from when they said I was going to have the surgery, how long it's going to take for healing, and the healing process. So I did a surgery. So I took 1 month off work, and I had to, after my surgery, after 1 month, I had to start on my chemotherapy 1 month after the surgery. And she said to me, "No, you're not going to the office." But someone like me, I'm a very bubbly person. Like chemotherapy, like told me, I used 2 days to, play around, and before the whole thing kicks in and, just destabilizes the whole system. So I had a very great support from work up until now. So
Okay.
they don't just want to hear, "Oh, you have got a headache," or this, "I've got one thing or the other." I've got a very supportive boss.
Okay. Lindy, was that the same for you?
Yeah, I had a really good support network. Work was really, really good about it. I think when people hear cancer, they know that it's something serious and they need to be supportive. I mean, it's a protected characteristic, so the law means that they have to be supportive. So yeah, I was able to take time off. I think I went back too quickly. I think I just told myself, right, I've had my surgery, it's all radiotherapy, I'm finished, I'm fine. And didn't give myself time to mentally heal, to mentally process everything that had gone on. I just wanted it to all be okay. But yeah, I've been really blessed with having a lot of support from work, from church, from friends at all times. I think I've been harder on myself than any work could have been on me or anything like that.
Okay. So I want to talk about insurance quickly. I'm conscious of time, but I want to talk about insurance. When you hear about critical illness insurance, sickness, and all these sort of insurance, a lot of times we treat them like non-priority things. So some of us have them, some of us don't have them. So I want to know, did you have them? And did you not? And how was it? You know, the process of managing that bit. You know, and are there anything you can share in terms of what people should think about when thinking of, because now you've had to probably go and look at what did I have down, and you know, what kind of insurance did I have, and all that kind of stuff. So is there any advice you can, or anything you can share in terms of your experience around insurance?
So
I'm an
actually
insurance junkie. So Lindy.
Yeah, so I was going to say, I actually cancelled my insurance, my critical health insurance, literally a few months before I was diagnosed, maybe about 4 or 5 months before. And obviously I really regret that, thinking I was really healthy. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I've never had any kind of illness. You know, at that point, our finances, who's it better to have, or my husband's better, I cancelled it, and then it went downhill. So I wish I'd had that at that time. Sorry, Tommy.
Tommy, you were going to...
I was saying I'm an insurance junkie. I insure everything. So I had insurance, and I was really glad I did, because when I got the diagnosis, the consultant told me I had to go on a waiting list, the NHS waiting list. And he said probably 4 to 6 weeks. And I was like, 4 to 6 weeks? There's an AM in my body. You want me to keep it 4 to 6 weeks? Though they did say it wasn't a fast growing one, but I just, because I didn't believe anything anyway at that time, I just wanted it out. So I called Bupa, and I was able to do it within 2 weeks. And I was able to also with radiotherapy, because I live in North London, and the closest radiotherapy center to me is North Middlesex Hospital. And I heard that you'd have to wait, and sometimes the machine breaks down. So I was able to go to the radiotherapy center in Elstree, and I even had a chauffeur-driven car come pick me.
Oh, that was through your insurance?
Yes, through my insurance.
Okay.
I also had life insurances, so which was good.
Was there, so again, with insurance, so having had the surgery and gone through all of that, how does that change your policies? For those of you who had it, and those of you who didn't, can you take it now? Does that
So now I can't get a life insurance anymore if I get a new one. I still have my existing ones, but I can't get a new one.
Yeah.
And my health insurance, I can't move it because I tried to move it once and the premium was ridiculous. So yeah, and my premium went to over 6 years. It went to from £20 a month to £220 a month.
Wow.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's so I was in a process of trying to renew my insurance, and I got diagnosed, and so safe to say I didn't get the insurance policy renewed, and insurance in Nigeria is almost non-existent. So it's tough. I would say that it definitely made me understand the fight for universal healthcare in the developing world, for example, a place like America, and where they're trying to make sure things like pre-existing conditions matter. Because I've had to pay for everything out of pocket. And if I continue if I do opt to do the immunotherapy, I would have probably spent $60,000-$70,000 by the time I was done, which is just a lot. Imagine, when you think about our economy and where we are. I'm very fortunate. I've had a lot of financial support from my family also. Just, because it wasn't something I just expected to pull out, $25,000-$30,000 right out the start. And I'm still wary, for now, even doing the chemo, because immunotherapy is still a form of chemo here in Nigeria, because I'm not sure how well the quality of care I would get, given all the possible side effects. So I'm hoping sometime in August, late August, I guess we're in August, so yeah, late August, I'll make it back to the States and spend some time at Sloan Kettering Cancer Treatment Center and see what they come up with.
I'm just going to quickly move and take a couple of questions from Facebook. So I've got a comment, someone saying you're all very brave, continue to support each other on this journey of life, that we all must face more strength to all of you. Then that was a comment, and then here I've got a comment and a question. I would like to congratulate, so someone congratulating all of you on beating cancer. The question to the panel is, what stage is the worst during your journey, from diagnosed to getting the all clear? Which stage would you say is the worst?
Maybe one from this end, Asia. I thought I had 8 rounds of chemo, and they said at the start it'll definitely be 6. We might have to do 8. And I actually found the first 3 rounds quite easy. I got a little bit cocky. I think, this is not as, what's everyone going on about? By the time I had the 4th one, I think it's the best analogy is it's like someone putting small weights on your chest, and it takes a while for the weight to build up, but then it really starts to affect you. And by then I'd lost my hair, I'd lost the feeling in my fingers, and I was dropping a lot of things, and I had put on a lot of weight. I went the other way that what most people do. And when they told me I had to do the extra 2 rounds of chemo, Nick was there, my wife, we both just walked out and just had a bit of a cry. That was bloody hard, because I was through it. I think Tommy's comment earlier, I think it sounds like you're speaking my words, Tommy. I agree with you 100%. That feeling of someone said to me, stick with it and make sure you do your chemo. I absolutely understand how people could stop. That was the hardest bit for me. But you know what? Here we are. You can come through.
I agree with Martin, because I think the chemo was the hardest part for me, especially when I was told I would have to have a Hickman line put on for the chemo. And I heard so many, negative things about having Hickman line or PIC line installed in you. So I stood my ground, and I did 3 cycles of chemo. Each time I had to do it, they would have to find a specialized, the people that do the needle, to come and find the vein. So they will have to bring the scanning machine to make sure they find the vein. So I think after my 3rd round of chemo, I had a blood clot on my arm, so they had to stop the chemo. I had to go on blood thinning injection, which was the hardest part for me, because I had to do that injection myself. I had to inject myself. So I did that for, I think I did that for 18 days before I went back. That was when they now said, you have no choice. You have to go, we have to put on the Hickman line. So I had to have the Hickman line, which was, it's not a nice thing to go through. Honestly, it is not a nice thing to go through, but yeah, hey, we're here pushing on. We're not giving up.
Okay, thanks for that. So I've got a couple of more questions and then we're going to get to the closing questions. So this is around intimacy. Was intimacy, how, you know, were you affected? Why am I stumbling?
I'm wondering why you're stumbling too.
I'm like, okay, get it right. You got one chance to get it right. So
We've gone through pretty bad stuff. Like, you can ask whatever you
we
want to
can
ask
talk about
us.
sex.
yeah.
Yes, it was affected.
Yeah.
Yes, it took a while to recover.
Yeah, Martin, I'm with you, because I couldn't move my I didn't know core muscles were needed so much.
You're answering my question. Thank you. You're answering my questions already. I don't even need to answer. So, was there a sense of feeling? And I asked this question because I remember when I became a mom, that was one of the things I didn't want to think about, intimacy after childbirth. So how was that for you? You know, thinking about intimacy. Were you in your head a lot about it, or were you just like you were just glad to be alive? It didn't really matter.
Someone like me, intimacy was dead and shut down.
Before or after?
After.
Okay.
Dead and shut down, because with all the medication that's just been injected in you, there are too many things you need to. What you're trying to do is to detox yourself from all the chemo medications injected into you. So the list of, anyway, for Martin and Caribe, it might be different. I don't know if Tommy, if you're on hormonal medication.
Yes.
Because someone like me, I'm on hormonal medication. So what it does, it shuts down your system. It shuts down all the estrogen pumping into your body. So, you know, it sets you off to early menopause.
Okay. So, but by that, do you mean like all sensations are gone, or?
Yeah, nothing.
Oh.
It's just like pumping a rat.
So, to go on from that,
I have to laugh. I'm sorry. I don't even know if it's a moment where you can laugh, but it's just the pumping a rat thing.
We had to laugh with you there. We had to laugh with you.
can I say?
Yeah.
Go on, Lindy.
So when I was due to have surgery, initially I was due to have a mastectomy, and my surgeon said I should have something called mammoplasty, where essentially it looks like on both boobs, and it looks like a boob lift, like a breast lift. So I was like, no, I don't care the size of it, just cut it off. She was like, no, trust me, in a couple of years' time, when you start getting back to normal, you're going to really appreciate the surgery I'm going to do. And I really do appreciate the surgery that was done. I have to say, yeah. I mean, I feel really bad because I'm talking about a lot of positive things that have come from me having cancer in this discussion, but I feel that the breasts that I've got now are a lot better than the ones I had having breastfed 3 children. And yeah, so I could have had immediate reconstruction and fat taken from my stomach as well, but this surgeon that I had is really in favor of mammoplasty, which is essentially just lifting the boobs, especially if you've got big boobs. So that's really been a help. I agree with, I'm on hormone replacement, and you really do have to make an effort. And visually, if you are in a good place, it helps a lot. And I think that a lot of the intimacy problems comes from me over analyzing as opposed to what my husband sees. So I'm thinking lots of thoughts, and I've changed. I'm going through premenopause, my feelings are different, but he's still seeing me and still loves me, and so I have to make that effort.
For the guys, is that the same? Is it different for men?
Well, one quick one, Asia, was that one of the first things they said to me when they said you're going to have chemo is, do you want to have any more children? Because you won't be able to after the chemo. And you might want to go and use a sperm bank. So just in very practical terms, your ability to have children goes out the window. So I haven't had that tested since, and I'd already had a vasectomy, so that wasn't in our plans. But that was something that I didn't know. And I suppose the challenge is that you're on the train, you know, they're sort of saying, so we've done your biopsy, you'll go in for chemo in a week's time. Oh, by the way, you won't be able to have children anymore, so do you want to do something? It all happens very quickly.
Yeah.
So that was just something to be aware of. And I think, you know, just, Collier, you said about you're full of the drugs, you're trying to get the chemo out of your system, day 2 or day 3, there's a good chance you're vomiting. I didn't feel like it for quite a while because I didn't feel well. You know, I felt it's like having a really bad hangover for a year.
I think what Martin, in my case, what you just said was very, very like important. I had just gotten married a year, and we had just celebrated right before I got diagnosed, and we had planned. We wanted to wait, you know, a year or 2 before we even thought about having kids. So I mean, the surgery and the possibility of chemo, any of the drugs they were recommending or thinking about recommending.
Okay, I think we've lost Ruby. Well, we'll pick it up when it comes back. So let me ask again. So in terms of, was there a sense of, okay, for the most, I think most of you said there was that feeling of death sense. So thinking about the reality of life versus death, when you're faced with that, was there something about, in terms of how you plan for the future? Now that you've gone through this, do you plan differently? Or do you, than you would before? Or, and is there a sense of, I'm planning because, you know, I was almost faced with death, or I felt like I was being faced with something like that? Or do you plan, or do you still just live your life? Or do you feel like, you know what, I've been through it, I've overcome that fear, I'm here now? Where are you guys on that?
I think for me, I think I took life more seriously, or cancer. And now I feel like during cancer, I realized I had to hand over everything to God, and I wasn't really in control. So after that, I've learned to hand over my life to God and just do what I can do. Don't put too much pressure on myself. Do my best. And however, the way I see life now is it's in God's hands. And not saying whatever would happen, but God is in control. He's sovereign and controls our lives, and we don't have much say in it. All we need to do is focus on Him and seek after Him, and all the other things will follow. So that's been my approach to life since then. Trying not to worry, not to take myself too seriously, and just do my best and enjoy life.
So in terms of, so again, to sort Martin or Lindy, do you feel like you move like different? Okay, so there's that thing of, okay, you know, living your life, and I guess your faith playing a part and everything. But is there something about you're more aware of yourself? So do you say, I love you more because, okay, I've gone to this thing, you know, let me make sure I say, you know, let me say I love you more to the ones I love. Do you think about, let me go and check that will and just make sure that I've got the right names on there. You know, a more realistic, you know, do you feel like, let me check that real quick.
For me, the first thing I thought about was who was I going to be leaving my stuff, my things for, you know? Who was going to be the beneficiary. But again, I sat back and I said, okay, you're not dying yet. Why are you thinking about all these things, you know? You still have more years to go. But the way I see life now is, now I've learned not to hold on things. I've learned to forgive a lot, because before, hell, if you do anything, we can, you know, but now, once you do anything, I make peace. Once my conscience is very clear that, you know, I'm not holding anything against you, I just let go. Because nobody knows. It might not even be cancer that will kill somebody. It can be anything, you know. So I let go. I learn to love. Like you said, I love, but now I'm more family oriented.
Yeah.
Very, very family oriented. I'm one person in my family that when people don't hear from me, because I call everybody every day, every single day. So when they don't hear from me, they think, oh, there's something wrong. So I learned the most important thing for me is forgiveness. I've learned, you know, to let go of when people hurt me and just leave it.
So when I went to see my oncologist and got the all clear, it was me and my husband, and she said to my husband, now you need to look after your wife. You need to take her away every few months. You need to, it doesn't have to be a 5-star hotel, it can be a 3-star hotel. You need to take her out for the day. You need to, there shouldn't have too much stress. My oncologist used to emphasize stress a lot. Stress, she felt, was what would make your immune system lower and let the cancer that's already in us fester and grow. So she really was like, you've got to change your outlook on life now. And I really took that on board. So I haven't done anything additional in terms of planning. I was lucky that most of the things in terms of my home was already set up, but I really embrace life now. I'm thankful. Like you said, I forgive. I don't believe in saving things for best, or, you know, I'll do this. I embrace life. I really do. I ensure I have time for myself. I check myself when I'm feeling stressed, when I can see a situation is really maybe work or home, and I really have coping mechanisms to ensure that I'm living in the moment. And some things that I've never done before, like gardening, growing vegetables, going for walks in the country, you know, have really, really helped me when, you know, I've been in states of anxiety, to come out of that and just get back to where I need to go to. So my journey from getting the all clear in terms of planning has been ensuring that I live in the moment, I create memories, and I be really positive, and ensure my husband takes me away every couple of months somewhere nice, and, you know, just really enjoy life. And I appreciate things. So when I'm going through, when I'm doing something, I will think, wow, this is a really great day, and I think back on it. I think that's where my planning has come, and that's what's changed about me. I really make the most of everything. You know, like I said, an outfit, I won't say, right, I'm going to save this outfit for a special occasion. I'll wear it to Waitrose if I have to. You know, I'm going to just enjoy. You know, I'm gonna live. I'm gonna live until I stop living, and I'm not going to stop until my day comes. So I'm not planning for death. I'm planning for my life. I'm planning to just live, continue living.
Go girl, go girl, yeah.
Yes, yes, we hear that. Karibi, welcome back. We lost you for a moment there. We're just sharing about whether you plan differently once after something like this happened. You know, do you do you review everything and do you plan differently? So for you, so I know you're, can I still call you a newlywed? You're not really a newlywed, are you? Sort of.
A year and a half. I don't know. What is that?
Yeah,
What is that?
yeah. So what are your, as your plans, so before, as your plans changed, or have they sort of moved different, your plans for you and your wife, your family changed, or are they, or has this made things move in a different direction?
So you go through this, yeah, and everything. So like Martin, and I think I was saying before I got cut off, I'm in a position where I have to think about what the contingency plans would be if I do decide to eventually do the immunotherapy. So they claim the immunotherapy now doesn't affect sperm as much. Is that better? Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I was saying, like Martin had pointed out, for the guys, before you do the therapy, for us, we still want to start a family. So, I may have to think about the contingency plans prior to, if I do decide to go into the immunotherapy. Even though they say that it doesn't have as much side effects on your sperm and being able to be fertile, but you never know. Outside of that, I feel like the biggest revelation, one, because again, I'm stuck here, and my medical options here are not the greatest, at least don't make me feel comfortable. I think that's one thing I would tell anybody. Cancer or no cancer, whatever you're going through life, don't discount how you feel. Because you, and that's one of the things I said to the doctors really early, you guys are the coaches, but I'm the star player. I still have to go out on the field and execute whatever you guys whatever plays you're calling. So you have to be very active, and your feelings are a great way to guide you and push you through that. I think the biggest revelation for me literally goes back to Genesis chapter 1:29. And I've read Genesis so many different ways, so many different times, and it never clicked. Where God just basically says what we are to eat, and eating from the earth. We were designed, our optimal design is to be herbivores. And even when we started eating meat, we were only supposed to eat meat animals that were also herbivores.
Yeah, we're losing. So hopefully he will reconnect, and we can catch what he's saying. So I think my final questions, and then I'm going to read. There's so many comments. There's more comments that people are sharing. I'll read those out. Is there anything that you would do differently from the start of that journey to now? Is there anything that you would have that maybe you felt you should have done, or, well, you know what I mean? Yeah, differently.
So Asia, a quick one. I think I pulled a muscle in my groin in around January, and I got diagnosed in October. And over that journey, I probably pulled my hamstring and my groin 3 or 4 times. I just thought I was just getting old, and it's a football injury. I saw 2 GPs, and I went to A&E once, and they all just said, take ibuprofen. And then the dots between those visits weren't connected. So I would definitely be much stronger in saying, if you've got a pain and it persists for 6 weeks, demand an X-ray. And it was only this very young lady who was a physiotherapist, I went back and saw her in October for the second time. And she said, I think you might have a problem with one of your bones. I'm not going to treat you until you get an X-ray. And that probably saved my life. And you think of the number of massage therapists and physio folk who would just treat you.
Yeah.
So that'd be my advice to everyone. And Lindy's comment about stress as well. You know, my doctor, he was started chemo. He's just retired, but he was doing chemo right at the start, decades ago. And he said, if you asked me when I started as stressor factor, I would have laughed at you, but I think it probably is now. The science is emerging that it does impact your immune system. And there's it may not trigger the cancer, but the way you cope with it. So, yeah, reduce stress. If you've got a symptom that keeps repeating, you know, be a strong advocate for yourself. Get an X-ray.
Cool. Anybody else? Anything you would do differently? So,
for me, it's just a word. It's just a word of advice for my fellow ladies, and also men also do get breast cancer. So let's not forget that men do have breast cancer. So for the ladies, I will always say to you, please, 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 always try and check your lemons. Once you're lying on the bed, just try and check your lemons. We have this notion that when people come out, they say, oh, it's not my portion. I don't know what that means to them, but it's not, cancer is not
breast, you mean? Is that what you?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, no, so I call them lemons, sorry. Always check your breast.
You say breast. Okay.
Yeah. So always check your breast. Make sure when you're lying down, just make sure you're touching. And if you want your husband or your spouse to, you know, feel it and find out if they see anything, please, please, please go and see your GP. Don't hold on. Don't say it's not me. Just one thing, remember that cancer is not the big C, but Christ is the big C.
Yeah. So to add to that, what was there anything that you felt you would have done it, looking back on your journey? Is there anything you would think, if I could do this, I would, you know, do this differently? Or
is it doing it not to get the cancer, or
no, not the cancer, from knowing that you've got cancer, you know, going through the process, the journey? For some people, it could be because you didn't tell anyone. Would you have told more people in hindsight now, or is there anything you would do differently?
I wouldn't. There's absolutely nothing I would have done differently. I would have still looked my bubbly self. Like Lindy, when I was going through cancer, people didn't know I was going through cancer. Even when I was going through chemotherapy, each cycle I go in with a different nail color, different nail polish, and the nurses were like, "Are you sure you're here for chemo, or are you here for fashion parade?" And I say, listen, I have my makeup, full makeup, everything on point, you know. I had different colors, and I made sure they were shouting colors that, you know. And I said to them, listen, this is just the way of, you know, telling yourself you look great, even with losing all the eyelashes. You know, your eyebrows are all gone, the hair was all off, you know. And I was one person, I refused to tie this. Sorry?
You wouldn't change anything in terms of?
No, I wouldn't change anything.
You did.
Everything,
okay.
Yeah, everything. The only thing I would add on more is to get into exercising more and eating more healthier.
Okay. All right. Tommy, what about you?
When I found when I felt a lump in my breast, I felt it by accident, and I was going to have it checked. I'd had 2 lumps previously. The first one when I was pregnant with my first child, and I had it removed, and it was benign. So the second time I had another lump. My daughter was about 1.5 years old, my first child. And because of the way I was cut to remove the lump, I didn't like the scar on my breast. So I said, I don't want to have that again. So I didn't have the second one checked. And I prayed for God to take it away. A month after, it wasn't there. So I was happy. And then 11 years after that was when I felt the third lump. And I was like, oh, I'm sure it's going to go away just like the second one went. 2 months, 3 months, nothing. So I said, well, I think it's time to have this checked. And even then, I was going to go back to Lagos, and I was like, oh, I don't have time for this. I've got too many things to sort out before traveling. I'm not going to have it checked. And then I mentioned to one of my friends, and she was like, well, just have it checked. Even if you think it's nothing, just have it checked. And I'm grateful I had it checked, because I won't be here today, if I hadn't. So the difference between checking and not checking is life. So yes, it's key to check. Self-examination, check anything, even if you think you're being ridiculous. Still have it checked. Always have it checked. Always have everything checked. So what I learned from that is I have everything checked. I have a pain in my knee, I check it. I have it checked.
Lindy, hi, we're just talking about, is there anything you would do differently from when you was diagnosed through your treatment till now? Is there anything you would do differently?
You're mute.
I think the same as what's just been said. I found a lump probably in the April of the year and didn't go to the doctors until September. Same thing, I found a lump. I thought it will go by the next month. The next month it didn't go. I thought maybe it was a milk cyst because I'd breastfed 3 kids. I remember even saying to you, Asia, at one point, you wanted us to work out. And I was like, oh, my breast is painful, but once it goes. So I think, and then I did find out about it. When I did book an appointment, I cancelled it twice because I thought I'm just going to waste people's time. Listening to your body, taking it seriously, taking anything seriously, knowing that doctors are there to help and not to think that you're wasting people's time. And it's fine to go to a doctor a million times. So I think I would do that differently. I think I would give myself more time as well to rest and just time for me. I felt that I had to I looked okay, so I had to act okay. And it's just, and when people come to me and say that they've been diagnosed with any form of cancer, I always say to people, just give yourself time. Make sure you give time for yourself, just to do things for yourself, just to absorb it. Make sure you have time to rest. Don't feel you have to prove that you're okay, that, I'm going to be fine. I need to prove to everyone that I'm going to be fine. It's okay to just take your time with this, absorb it, rest, give yourself time to rest. Yourself to be healing a lot. So I'd do that differently. I'd give myself a lot more rest time and just take my body more, listen to my body more.
Okay, thanks for that. So people just agreeing, just looking at Facebook, and people just agreeing with the comments around, looking after yourself and checking yourself more. I'm going to read some of the comments. So these are more comments to you guys. So someone says, this has been truly inspiring and informative. Well done to all the speakers for sharing their stories. Thank you guys for sharing your stories, and I'm strengthened. I think it gives me strength or something like that. I think that's what I was saying. Thank you for this insight and inspiring stories, and Asia for this platform. You're welcome. Looks like Karibi freeze. Yep, you did. And then there's comments about, so I think it's Nicole talking about ignoring the signs, they're diagnosed in December, 12 months of ignoring the signs, men. So that was the comments there. So I had so many more questions, I'll be honest with you, but we are out of time. We're even over time. So I just really want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Solo. Thank you, Lindy and Karibi. Karibi's dropped off, unfortunately. And this has been I've learned a lot from hearing your stories. And I think we've all taken something away from this. Is there anyone on the platform now that wants to say anything to them? If you want to say anything, or I'll keep going, no problem. Anyone want to say anything? Okay. And so just want to say thank you for lending your time. Thank you for and those of you who joined from Facebook to Zoom, thank you again. This is our new normal, you know, our Zoom conference TV type thing. So yeah. So any last words from Martin, Tomi, Solo, and Lindy? Anything you wanna? Any last words?
Just a great forum, Asia. Really nice to meet you all. Tomi in particular, you said everything I needed to say. But thanks, Asia. I wish this was around when I found out. I think it's a great forum, you know, to hear that you can get through and hear the stories. So thank you.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
And Lindy, anything you want to add to me?
I think I remember when I first got diagnosed, looking on the internet for just see women that had gone through what the journey I was about to go through, and it's so helpful to see women that have come out the other side, that are strong, that are positive. So this is a really good platform. Really promote it, because I really struggled to find women like me on the internet or anywhere at that time, those years ago. And now obviously there's a lot of information out there, but it's so important. A lot of people talk about it, don't really share their struggles and how they've come through it. So it's really, really important. Really promote it. It's a good thing. It's a really good thing.
Brilliant stuff. Again, I'll be back next month talking about something else. And I don't know what yet, but because I don't know what order I want to do them. But I'm really so grateful to you guys. I've got so many comments of people. I hope you guys can see the chats saying thank you for sharing your stories. This was very informative. And yeah, and then Ashley also saying thank you for sticking with us. Facebook just saying, you know, like, well done to you guys. Just well done. That's what Facebook's saying. So thank you. Before you go, I have to play. This was my theme song. I forgot to play at the beginning because I was a little bit nervous. But I'm going to play. It just feels like this song was the song that came to me. It's a song by Andra Day. It's called Rise Up. And it was just very inspiring. So I'm just gonna close on that. But I appreciate you guys joining. So thank you all for joining. Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, everyone.
Yeah. Good to meet
you.
Take care, folks. Stay well.
Bye.
And I do it 1,000 times again. And I rise up.
Comments are
I
great.
like the waves I rise up. In spite of the ache, I rise up. And I do it 1,000 times again.
So thank you guys. And we out. Peace.
Thanks, Asia. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.